Fantastic, Beth. Yeah, I was nodding in agreement with with when Mapendo was chatting around the convincing the data holders to why it's a good idea to share information. I definitely think that's a common challenge that we all have, and I guess one of the reasons we the system's been developed to offer value, so that they can see the value in putting their data in. But I definitely think it's a bit of a journey we all have to go on. So any insights that your team has, down the line, we'd all be very grateful.
Yeah. Well, we also we talked a lot about how we want to get feedback from other people in the seminar who I think are more advanced than us. And of course, we've been learning a lot from RBIS, but recently Mapendo has really made some big breakthroughs in getting data holders to share data. And I think that that's a really exciting part of it. And I think I mentioned in this seminar, I don't know, but 2 weeks ago in our weekly seminar, we had a speaker from Dryad, who's from a data repository where people publish data sets. So we're really trying to build this sort of mindset about, sharing and publishing data sets, not just, your final papers or reports, but also the actual data sets so that they can be used. And the speaker we had from Dryad talked a lot about that democratizing of data and how these data sets can be used for many different things, and the owner of the data still gets to, they're acknowledged as being the owner and the collector of those data. So I think it's really pushing forward this kind of mindset and how data sets are viewed publicly. So any other questions or comments for Mapendo, Tassien, Daniel, or Elias?
Thank you very much, Beth. I don't have really a question, but simply to continue to acknowledge the partnership with the Freshwater Research Center and Cartosa to assure that we are learning really from them. We have their full-time dedication. Helen, team, really thank you very much, and we continue to count on your usual support. Really, thank you very much.
Most welcome. It's been a pleasure. Learned so much through each other's work, I think.
Yeah, and it's also just lovely to see how your ownership and investment into the platform has grown, as we've been doing the project together, how you've taken charge of it and really made it your own. So it's been our pleasure.
Thank you, team.
Jem, I see you've got a hand up there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Cool. Thanks so much, everybody, for the presentations today. It's so great to see the progress in Rwanda. Such fast progress. Wow. So obviously
nice
we had
to hear you think it's fast.
Yeah, I'm sure to you it doesn't seem so fast, but it's been really impressive from this side to see it evolving. So well done to everyone. For me, I'm quite curious about the, I guess we heard about the RBIS platform a few weeks back, and now we've heard about the RBIS platform, and obviously there's some overlap in data coverage, and I'm quite curious and interested in like where is there sort of areas of more overlap in what the two platforms are doing, and then what are the main things that they're doing differently. And I'd imagine that they're functioning in a complementary way, but I'd be really interested to know more about, the sort of the focuses and the complementarity of the two platforms. I know it's quite a large question, but I thought it'd be an interesting thing to chat about.
Yeah, thank you. I want to bookmark that. I also want to mention Esri, their platform, because I recently met with Esri and it was very interesting because they also want people to use Esri products in their platform. So this has been just a big learning experience for our team. With ARCOS, I want to invite Mapendo to talk about this too, because we've been working with ARCOS on the African Biodiversity Challenge project, where we are working a lot looking at data entry points, and we have a project planned with ARCOS soon to do some resampling of some sites. But I don't know as much about the platform overlap, so maybe Mapendo can answer. And I was trying to push ARCOS to join, and I didn't see, I see, actually Apollinaire William is here. I don't know if he's been working with RBIS, but maybe he can make some comments. But what I can say is that I think that most of the overlap for us that I'm aware of is going to be on collecting the data, and the ARCOS has been working on developing some indicators of wetland quality based on a suite of different taxon, and we are working on individual modules, and then in those modules we will be having indicator species. So we're starting with odonates, and it's why last time I was asking about both the citizen science data when we had the other seminar, and then also I have bookmarked to talk more with you guys at FBIS about how you've embedded the SAS into your platform, because that's the next step we want to do. Is we've got odonates and we have an odonate index developed explicitly for Rwanda, and I know that Mapendo is interested with the anurans, and then we have a PhD student working on diatoms now, and we hope to develop something with that. And so that's our next goal, and probably we'll work closely with ARCOS on that, because they've got a system of wetland monitoring going on in the country. But as far as the platform, I don't know exactly where they are in terms of the team they have working on RBIS and how it's connecting with the government needs right now for data products. But maybe I can ask Mapendo and Apollinaire to jump in.
Thank you very much, Beth. Actually, you have hit the points I wanted to mention. For us, I don't also see any overlap with the ARCOS biodiversity information management system that they are really building. As Beth said, for us, we are targeting specific taxonomy group that are going actually to be used by the country in the monitoring of freshwater ecological system. Oh, yes. Yes, thank you. And for us, we are actually getting this specific taxon group, and for ARCOS, see the system. I haven't really investigated too much in their system, but for them to just an overall biodiversity, not really focusing on a particular taxon group that is, let's say, for example, indicating the changes in the quality of freshwater ecological system. That is what I can mention as a bit of the difference between what we are building. And as Beth mentioned, through our data, we are actually aiming at producing a BDP. This is about biodiversity products, such as, for example, the biological indicator index and so on. So for us, we are really focusing on specific taxon group that will end up into a product at the end. Yeah, my colleagues can supplement if one has also another idea.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else wants to mention anything, Tassian or Daniel or Apollinaire William from ARCOS. Unfortunately, Obed couldn't be here because he was ill. He's our spatial analyst for the system, and of course Maurice is in Copenhagen now doing his PhD. But yeah, I don't see other people from ARCOS are responding right now. So, and so I don't know if we answered your question adequately, Jeremy.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool to see the different focuses. You know, obviously there are overlapping data, but the you know, what the data are being used for and how they're being packaged and shared and aggregated have different foci. So I think, yeah, that gives me a better insight. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that we are, you know, really, we do work with many different partners, and ARCOS is one of our closer partners. So I know that will continue, and I do think it's really important to stay closely connected to the different institutions that are also either have biodiversity data or developing the portals. What I wanted to mention about Esri is that they have an office here in Kigali, and I met with one of their staff recently. And one of the first things they said to me was, why aren't you using the Esri platform for your RBIS, your information system? And so I thought that was a really interesting statement. And I even asked, can I look at your system? And it's not even easy to get in there. You have to have, like, she said, well, I can give you a special access, but you have to really be approved through in advance through, they're trying to get Rwanda Environment Management Authority to take it over, but they haven't really had full ownership. This is why I'm always emphasizing that creating the system really is 50-50, like social aspect of it, getting the trust and ownership, and then the biological, taxonomic and ecological side of it, and the technical side too. And there's a license issue with the Esri one. So I haven't yet been able to get in and look and play with it, but Esri said they want to work with us. And so I think our whole team will have a meeting with them and, go in and look at each other's systems, because there's certainly capabilities that they can do that we could really learn from and benefit from. But they're a really different approach. They're basically a company with a licensed product. And so it's a very different approach from this open source software approach. That's something that I am really still learning about, but it has tremendous implications for who can use the system and how easily it can be accessed.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Thanks, Beth. I see does anyone want to comment to that? Because Chikandi's got his hand up, but if there are any comments specifically around the Esri side of things, we can jump in and then. No? Okay, Chikandi. Oh, Apollonia.
Hello everyone. I'm sorry I jumped in late. I was busy. But the one thing I can say about collaboration between RCOS and the Center of Excellence in Natural Resource Management is that the collaboration is very close, and we are complementing each other. The RCOS is basically focusing on the checklist of species, where their occurrences, and as Beth also mentioned, we focus also on the assessment of wetlands. And so there's no competition between both centers, and I think we complement each other.
Okay, thanks so much for that. That's great. Chikandi, do you want to go ahead? Just unmute.
Yes. Hi, Helen. How are you?
Hi. Welcome.
Good. And hello, everyone. Thank you very much, the Rwanda team, for such a wonderful and very insightful presentation. We are actually working on something similar here in Malawi in our Rwanda project. I just guess that maybe what I want to ask about has already been discussed, but I want to learn specifically, because like Daniel was demonstrating a very interesting module, the maps module. And I was just wondering whether it's the Esri, you got it from Esri, and how much it costs and how you are able to maintain the module in your arrangement, or the way you're going to support it so that it doesn't like, it always is subscribed and paid up. Thank you. Am I clear? Is that clear?
Yes, I think that's fine. Who's going to tackle it from the team? Beth or?
I think I should let Mapendo respond, because his team is working on the module development, but it's not connected to Esri at all. Maybe, is that what you thought, Chikandi?
Yeah, I just thought so, because I mean, Esri is always working on maps and this GIS platform.
No, Esri, they have developed their own platform. They have in the start of a biodiversity platform for Rwanda with spatial layers. But our system is being developed. We're really modeling from FBIS and with Cartoza's help. And so yeah, maybe who's the best person to talk about that? Would that be Mapendo, or I see Celestin isn't here because we have an ICT team. So basically it's an open source software we're using to develop the system. And we're really lucky that that Helen's team had already, worked with Cartoza, worked with the company to develop what the platform would look like. So we, I wouldn't, it's not like a canned program or a canned platform, but the software is already in place, and it just made a lot of sense to take what they had already developed and then put it onto what our needs are. So we always had the vision to scale up from not only freshwater, because of course, Freshwater Research Center focuses on freshwater systems. Ours will be the whole country, all ecosystems. But the general plan of having these modules, which is what Daniel showed you, and then the spatial layers, what Tassien showed you, the underlying, source and design for that was done by FBIS with Cartoza. So we took that, and now we've been sort of modifying small components of that. And what has been really important is the training we get to build this with FBIS and Cartoza. And I think what's also very important is that we have an interdisciplinary team. So we put together a biodiversity data team that is led by Mapendo. So there's a team of individuals that are gathering data sets and putting them into the correct format. And then with the training with Helen, getting them uploaded into the system in the right way. And then working with Cartoza, we also have a GIS specialist on our team. And then we have people from ICT who are getting the training in the behind the scenes, the software, which again had already basically been developed. And there's small modifications that we're doing to adapt it to exactly what we want. But that's how we're putting it together. So I think what is important is to have the mentoring and training from Helen's team and Cartoza, and then having a large enough team, because people are constantly, at least for us, people are always going off and doing masters and PhDs and shifting around. So we want to always have a baseline of people that are trained in the different aspects, in the software part, the GIS part, and the data management part. But I hope I answered your question. I don't know if Mapendo or Tassien or Daniel want to add anything, or Deborah. Deborah's here too.
Beth, I wouldn't mind just adding one thing just from the FRC side. Chikondi, I don't think you were here 2 weeks ago when we gave the freshwater biodiversity information system. So we were very fortunate to be one of the first group funded by the JRS Foundation. And we were equally fortunate to link up right at the get-go with the incredible group in the form of Cartoza, who are sort of open source geospatial specialists, that's their thing. And together, the Freshwater Research Center with Cartoza's technical know-how developed the Freshwater Biodiversity Information System, FBIS. And when we kind of developed that, we always had the vision that we shared a common vision that let's not just necessarily make it only for South Africa, but develop it in a way that could easily be transplanted into other countries. And the first such transplant was Rwanda, with Beth and Elias's team. And I think it's been a really good process for all of us, really, to see how we could take something developed for one very specific country and region and goal, and actually use the nuts and bolts in the background that already exists, and then build on it. So rather than reinventing the wheel, to take what's been done and then add extra value, which then came back to us in FBIS in terms of making it easier for the administrators to manage modules and upload their own data. So there's been a lot of synergy and collaboration between you know, the center and Cartosa and FRC and our two systems. And so, you know, that's just sort of the history of it, which obviously it's all on the YouTube, so you can go and have a look at your leisure of, you know, the other system as well and see where we're sort of heading. But the end goal is also, you know, if the other organizations and especially JRS grantees who see potential value in, you know, piggybacking on what's already happened. And I know that the JRS are very supportive, and that's part of the reason for having this seminar series, is to create those links and create those synergies between the JRS stable of grantees, you know, to see how we can help each other. And in that way, you know, we're all the richer for it. So that's just a bit of the background, Kondi.
No, thanks very much for clarifying. I think the best is to really go back to YouTube, and then I can get back to you personally or to Beth, and we can see how you can help us out. We actually need that as well in our portal. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would really like to suggest also, I think Mapendo and his team can be really valuable to you because they, you know, have experienced learning about this from Helen and from Cartosa and how they got up to speed. So I'm sure they'll be really happy to talk about their experience with you, maybe organizing a, you know, a 1-hour Zoom session with you just to talk you through some of the things that they've done in order to be able to build the system.
Sure, thank you, Beth. I will just drop my email in the chat box that Jeremy can contact us anytime. Thank you.
Great.
That would be great. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. That's what this session's about, that we can share and collaborate. I think that would be great. Any other questions for Beth and Elias?
Yeah, I will have a question too. Actually, during my presentation, I mentioned the different challenges that we are facing to get data from different people due to the different psychological, cultural, and time barriers. I want to get experience from your side, maybe the Cartosa and FRC. How do you get to solve these issues? Maybe it's a problem of Rwandans, or it's just, you know, a general problem everywhere. So how do you really solve this issue? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Rwandan problem. It's definitely a universal problem. Jem, I'll hand over to you afterwards as well, because I'm sure you've got some extra insight. I think your one point that you had was the time restrictions, that people often don't have the time. They might be over the boundaries of the willingness, and people are willing to contribute data because they see the value in putting data in the communal system. They just do not have the time to. And our experience is, unless an organization is kind of mandated as part of their job to do it, sometimes doesn't happen. And I think that's why when we designed the system, we, together with our end users, put a lot of emphasis in kind of making it really visually appealing, so that, for example, your EIA practitioners, you know, they might do an EIA, do the field work for an EIA, put it into their own spreadsheet, and then write their report. And by creating, you know, easily downloadable graphics and easy to use data that's readily accessible, we kind of took the carrot approach, where you offer something that they can't get in their own spreadsheet. So instead of putting the data into their own spreadsheet, they go straight to, in our case, the RBIS system, and put their data in, and are then very easily able to get the graphics that they can then cut and paste into their report. So that was the one approach, to try and overcome the lack of time. You know, the will is there, but they never have the time to do it. So by putting the data in directly to RBIS, they can get the graphics, which at the end of the day will save them time rather than take extra time. That's the one thing, Jem. I'm sure you've got some other words of wisdom around the challenges. We by no means have all the answers. It's definitely a work in progress.
Yeah, I think we've been putting quite a big effort into trying to coax coax users and data contributors into adding data to the platform, and I'm sure anybody who's been involved in that process knows that it's a bit hit and miss, and that it can take quite a lot of perseverance. But just 2 points that kind of spring to mind on the topic are, firstly, being really clear with data contributors what the end goals are for the platform and the data. Ultimately, where are these data going and what are they going to be used for? And I think generally when people understand that there's a bigger picture of data, reliable data being fed into important decision making around environmental management, I think that's also another kind of carrot, in addition to what Helen was talking about, the personal use of the beautiful dashboards and the downloads of CSVs, etc. So that's one thing that springs to mind. And then the other one really is that people are sometimes a little bit concerned maybe about permissions. And I think it's something that came up in one of the talks earlier today, but just having the right permissions and being clear about what the data sharing agreements are of data being uploaded or downloaded from a platform in those kind of conversations have been really useful. Yeah, so that's just two thoughts on the topic.
Right, thanks, Jim. Any more comments back to that, Mapendo, or shall we move on to Ciro? He's joined us and he's got a question.
We can move on. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Hi, Ciro, welcome. You want to just unmute? Sorry, you just muted. Perfect.
No, I've been around for some time. It's just that you didn't notice me. Yeah. So just to comment on the presentations today, it's really impressive, and it's really something that many of us are also trying to do. And to comment specifically on the data sharing challenges, in our project we did a survey on barriers and the challenges on data sharing, and in fact, all the things that you presented, we came across them. And from my experience and what I have also researched, these problems are not unique to, say, Africa or any one place. These are issues that are world over. And unfortunately, you would think that it would be people who are not aware, even the scholars, the institutions, they all have these issues, and it's very difficult to solve. In our example, we work with the different partners, and our experience was that when you go directly to the institutions to try and sign a data sharing agreement, it becomes very complicated, because most of the times you are dealing with either the legal officer in that institution will have to be brought in, and you know that once it gets to that level, then the lawyers bring in all sorts of issues, which can be very complicated. They create mountains out of small issues that we, looking at it, scientists or community workers, are probably not seeing it as a major problem. So you may find that sometimes it's even easier to work with individuals because the individuals understand. But if they are working under an institution, they cannot go against their institutional policies. So you find that sometimes it's like trying to push a change in policies in institutions so that they allow the individuals to share the data or do the things that they really love. So it's really a mixed bag, whereby sometimes actually in my case, I find that many times is the institution which is either blocking. Sometimes the institution has no problem. You find that it is the individuals. So sometimes, depending on where the barrier is, you are either trying to work with the individuals because the individuals are more willing, but not the institution, or sometimes it's the institution, so you're trying to work with the institution. So it's really challenging, and it's something that many of us are facing. And but looking at what you have done so far, I think you have made a lot of tremendous progress, and it's comparing to what some of us are going through. You have done a great job, and it's really commendable that you are sharing with us. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Cyril. As you were talking, I was just reminded of our own use case in South Africa, where our local Department of Water and Sanitation, sometimes if an institution doesn't have their own vehicle for data management, for their own water officers and what have you to use, they're sometimes more amenable to using, another system like, for example, RBIS, because that's been the case with our water department, where the system that they used to use didn't work anymore. And so when we came along with RBIS, they immediately grabbed the opportunity to put in data, and specifically the SAS data, which is our invertebrate data that provides a measure of river health, because it's part of the department's mandate to report on river health on a regular basis. And they have a lot of field officers that are doing the data collection, but they have had nowhere to put the data. So I think sometimes if the organization doesn't have a home already for the data, then they are more amenable to using, the system that provides what they're after. Laban, I see your hand is up. To ask your question. Welcome. I can't hear you. I'm not sure if you are. Okay, he's not muted. Laban, we can't hear you. Okay, maybe he's not there.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you now.
Hello?
Hi, Laban, go ahead, answer your question.
You're not getting me?
Yes, we're getting you,
Yeah,
thank you.
okay. So I have a small comment on data sharing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a small comment. Before I do that, I would like to ask a small question. So when we look at the sources of data in the system, we see RBIS and GBIF. So I'm asking, is the data from RBIS from one institution? I'd like to get an answer to that before I continue with my comment, if it is possible.
Thank you very much, Sir Laban. Actually, for the RBIS that you have seen, it's not from one institution, rather it's from different stakeholders or data providers who are willing to share data with us. This can be from private sectors or any other.
Okay, that is enough. That is enough. So why I'm asking this is that data holders who are sharing data to feed these information systems, I think if we are to continue getting data from them and make sure that they share willingly, we have to give them incentives. And one of the incentives is recognition within these systems. I think that one can help, and it also helps beyond institutions, also to individuals. We have to give them incentives such that they continue sharing the data. So that is one way I see that is useful in making sure that we get enough data sets to feed. So there are some cases where people seeking data even have tendencies of grabbing data. We have had those tendencies. And that one discourages everyone else from sharing that. In other words, we have to make sure that the people who have the data also see some benefit. And recognition in these platforms, highlights in these platforms is one way. And honestly, especially in our context, I mean the African context, incentives might also be financial. So like in our case, we mobilize, we undertake data mobilization workshops, and then data holders are paid to come to these data mobilization workshops. And that one also works an incentive for different individual data holders to share the data willingly. Now, in your case, if you are a national biodiversity information system, I even see possibilities in the future where you can even have small grants to other institutions, small institutions across the country to mobilize data and contribute. That is my comment. Thank you.
That was a great suggestion. I love that, having small grants, you know, and thinking about incentives for people who are sharing. Actually, I talked about that with Mapendo also, and we're a small way. We don't really have funding to monetarily incentivize data sharing people, data sharers, whatever, data holders who are sharing. But what we are going to mention them on our website, and we've asked permission to use like quotes from them to say the reasons why, sort of like testimonies about what made them come around to agree to share their data, just to start getting that culture of talking about why they're sharing data. But I love the idea of looking for small grants, especially targeting like gap areas in data sets and important biodiversity areas or critical ecosystems. So thanks so much for that suggestion.
Yeah, I agree, Beth. That's a interesting idea. And also, I had a thought, and now it seems to have disappeared out of my head. Really just working with, like, obviously you get, like Mapendo, you presented, you know, different types of data providers. It can be an individual who does a lot of consulting work and has to find the time. And that was sort of what I spoke to, providing the carrot so that it actually saves them time in the end of the day. And that's work for us. But then also really creating that partnership with the key organizations, in our case, Department of Water Affairs and, you know, the conservation, nature conservation, and trying to train them up so that it doesn't become a big onerous task, you know, that it's quite an easy thing, and then it gets developed and built into their business plans and their work processes, that, you know, yes, you go and do the field data, but the end result of that is to then upload the data to RBIS or FBIS. We've also spoken about two ideas, some of which were well received, and the one wasn't. The one was around, you know, in South Africa, no matter where you do your field collections, you need to get a permit, you know, from the regulatory, normally like a nature conservation or a provincial department, you know, that gives you a permit to collect, you know, sample fish or collect invertebrates or what have you. And as part of that permit, the requirement could be added that the data needs to be uploaded to FBIS. So that's one of the things that we've thought about, including it in the permitting side of things, to encourage anyone who does a survey to then, you know, kind of be forced in a way to upload their data to a system that everybody can have access to. And the other is linked to the universities, where if a student, you know, does a master's or a PhD or an honors project, that somewhere in the agreement with the university is the requirement to lodge your data within, you know, FBIS or RBIS in the case of Rwanda. So those are just two other ideas we've sort of thrown around our side to try and encourage the the mobilization and the data not end up, it's stuck in a thesis and no one has access to it down the line. Okay. Any other questions? Hi, Nancy, welcome.
Hi, so sorry. I really was looking forward to this set of presentations. I unavoidably couldn't, so I'm looking forward to listening to the recording.
Yeah.
Really, really sorry.
No problem. Just glad you popped in. Thank you. Any more questions? Because we're sort of rounding up now. But I think it's been really great, Beth. I mean, you've tackled a whole lot of issues open, for discussion. And I think, yeah, hopefully we just all keep learning as we go, and any insights that we have around the data sharing, I think is where we're going into our next phase now. Part of the focus is going to be on training the data providers. So we hopefully will get some extra insights, from the different organizations and individuals within those organizations as the best, the best way. And yeah, I guess just trying to get it as part of the routine monitoring and data sharing processes.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And thanks, Helen, for organizing this. And thanks for everybody who attended and listened, and for the great comments and questions.
Okay. Excellent. If there are no more questions or comments, just a big shout out. Thank you to the RBIS team. It's been a pleasure growing with you and seeing you take off and fly, basically. I think you've done an incredible, yeah, I mean, when I hear the presentations and, the insight and the knowledge that's sort of grown within your team in the last year, it's really, really amazing. So that's great. Next, in 2 weeks' time, will be Laban. I think you're up next to tell us a bit about your work and the system that you've been involved with for the last couple of years. So that'll be exciting. And as always, we'll be sharing the videos of all the presentations. And then if I could just ask anyone who had a presentation, I think Beth, Elias, Mapendo, if you wouldn't mind creating a PDF of that, and if you're happy to share it with the group, we'll do that as well as part of the seminar series, so that they're resources. And I think certainly some points that, we can always be reminded of and get insight from through the presentations, as well as the PDFs of them. Good. So any last minute issues? Otherwise, just a big thank you. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Great
Cheers.
job.